Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. I'm Candace Higgins,
And I'm Tino Ganasius.
and we are back to react to the NFL release of the NFL schedule release for all of the teams, but particularly, of course, we're going to talk about the Seahawks. So excited to get into it. Tino and I have not discussed anything, so I'm curious as to how hard he's going to be on this team or not. So it should get interesting today. But Tino, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Hanging in there. Can't complain.
All right.
Can't complain.
What Same here, doing well. It's exciting to have a little bit of news to talk about. I mean, basically from here, there's not going to be a ton from here.
Hmm.
The only things that have really happened, I think, since we last talked is rookie mini camp, which you're only going to be able to take so much away from. But I'm really excited to get into this schedule. Because I guess we can start big picture, like before we get into the specific opponents. For me, my initial reaction was I think it's a pretty good schedule. I mean, given that you got to play who you got to play, right? There's not obviously you're not going to have nearly as much of a cupcake schedule as you did last year. You're Super Bowl champions. You're going to get a first place schedule. Given
Hmm.
who you're playing, the circumstances with which they're playing the opponents, I think falls a lot into their favor. And especially when I look around the NFC West, the 49ers obviously have an easier slate per usual. But especially
Hmm.
looking at those Rams, man, I really like how the Seahawks stack up compared to those guys.
We'll see.
You see?
I said
All
we'll
right, what do you think?
see. We'll see. When we get into it, we'll see.
What's your big picture before we get into the games? We'll get into the games here in a minute. But what's your initial just looking at the
Um,
full schedule? Like, what's your takeaway?
my takeaway was that a lot of, I went through the draft and the offseason acquisitions of a lot of these teams, and I think a lot of these teams got better. And, I think some of it is about the development of the young quarterback on the other team, and that's going to determine, I think, some of these games. I'll put it out there, I'm very worried about the Seahawks' ability to run the ball next year. I think Charbonnet being hurt, and obviously we spent a one on Jadarian Price, and I'm excited to see him, but, I believe that we're going to want to run the ball even more this year, and I worry that we don't have that running back yet. I want to see what Price looks like. I'm also worried about other teams' ability to scheme out with in the offseason to scheme for JSN. Do the Seahawks have enough outside of JSN in the passing game to allow him to be as effective as he was last year? I'm not worried about the defense much. I think the defense is still going to be great, but like I said, a lot of these teams, and we'll go down the list, I think got better, and so I'm probably predictably less optimistic than you about the overall view of next season, at least from right now, based on the schedule that we see. But it will be interesting to get into it and dig into some of these details with you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Somehow I had a sneaking suspicion that you wouldn't be as high on this team as I am. But so far, I have been right. So I'm going to lean into
This
my
is true.
role as
This is
the
true.
eternal optimist on this show. I'm just leaning into it all the way. But so I do want to before we go through and share here, I do want to mention a couple of your points. So one, I think the Rashid Shaheed signing, what I mean, like bringing him back, I think makes a big difference. And I'll tell
Yes.
you why I'm not too worried about the running game. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I don't have any concerns. I do. Obviously, you're putting a rookie there instead of Kenneth Walker, who you trusted more, but they ran the ball the second most in the NFL last year. So maybe they run the ball more, but that would just put them first over the Eagles. So it's possible, but I don't think like they can get much more run heavy than they were already. And two, I think
Hmm.
that when it comes, I think it is lost. The playoff run, the recency bias, I think it gets lost. This team did not have a good running game last year. It's the reality. This team struggled to run the ball consistently for like the first 13
Hmm.
weeks of the season. And so, even if
Hmm.
things played out like they did last year, I think we have enough evidence that they can sustain it. that they can. And that was before the Rashid Shaheed. Most of that struggle was before they had Rashid Shaheed. So I think they do have enough between the depth that they retained. I think part of it, I think JSN is to some extent just a little bit unguardable. I think it comes down to that. But I think you got enough other options there between Cooper Cup, between Rashid Shaheed. Probably Rashid Shaheed being more of a two than a three would be ideal this upcoming year to help with the probably natural regression of Cooper Cup. But
How much
for me,
more can he regress? How much?
how,
I guess that's my thing, right? Is I look at this and I'm like, it's less about. I don't expect anything from Cooper Cup, anything. Like I think he's washed. I think he was washed last year for the most part. He had a couple of times when he had a couple of clutch catches, but to me, like he's there as a mascot more so, for all the Seahawks folks than he is for production's sake, in my opinion. I think Shaheed. I love Shaheed, but I think Shaheed is best as a distraction more so than he is. Meaning he like we talked about, stretches the defense, draws the safety. You got to pay attention to him. I do think he's productive, but I don't think he is. I think he is a good match for JSN, but I do think they're going to need a third to step up. We're going to have to see Horton step up, right? We're going to have to see what Henderson Jr. is made of. We're counting on the continued production of AJ Barner and or, the ascension of Arroyo as a real threat at tight end. And we don't know what we're getting out of the backfield from a pass catching standpoint either, right? And I am trying to be objective, right? I can be a hater sometimes, but and I do believe in JSN's talent, right? I think he is a top three, top five wide receiver in the NFL, moving forward. But this is assuming the offensive line can either continues to do what they did or gets better. This is assuming that JSN can continue to do what he did or doesn't get hurt. This is assuming that Sam Darnold and his improvement, in clutch situations continues. This is assuming that Jadarian Price is for real, right? That it wasn't a wasted pick. We really haven't seen that from him because he was a backup to Jeremiah Love. We don't, this is based on what projection. And then behind him, Wilson from Green Bay, like he's a power runner, he's good, but we don't know what he does as a number one. We know Holani, his best cast is probably a third down back. Charbonnet, we don't know what we're getting when we get him back, if we get him back early. It's just there's so many questions about the offense. That's what makes me nervous. And I know we went into last year with a ton of questions as well. But I'm not comfortable saying like checking these boxes just because it happened last year, checking those boxes for 2026 quite yet.
that's interesting because I actually have more questions about the defense than I did the offense. Honestly, I think, and one thing that I think you're forgetting is Torrey Horton being back. I think you're forgetting that he's going to be a part of that room at least.
I like him. I like him. I don't know
I
that,
think
but
he showed a
he
lot
hasn't
of
proven it.
explosive. I mean, even if Cooper Cup, even if you're right, and he's washed and he becomes a four. If you got JSN, Rashid Shaheed, and Torrey Horton, I think that's a great trio.
Sure.
Honestly, like I think Torrey Horton as a three is great, and I believe that you'll see more from Rashid Shaheed because I believe the connection between he and Sam Darnold was a genuine challenge at times. He's just not used to anybody with that speed. Like you could just tell. Like the connection wasn't there. I think they're gonna work on that in the offseason. I think they didn't have a lot of plays for Rashid Shaheed. So you're right, they
Yep.
used him more as a decoy. But I think that was more due to circumstance. We've seen Shaheed be productive pretty
Hmm.
much all of his career. He had a drop off when he came to Seattle, but I think that's a natural expectation given, you know, learning on the job, building chemistry with a team that's already so connected. Um, my questions about the defense actually, I'm a little concerned about the edge room. I'll be honest, that the defensive line is going to be ferocious if they're healthy. But I think there are more questions to say, can Demarcus Lawrence give you, you know,
Sure.
15 games? Can Leo
Sure.
Williams give you 15? I think there are more questions about that. And then what happens to this team if that happens, or like, I know they got depth to some extent. Riley Mills, you like him. You got some guys you like, right? But the pressure was a challenge at times last year. I think they got away with it because
Hmm.
Mike McDonald's system, but
Hmm.
you know, I'm not sure that they have done anything to. They better hope Chenna stays healthy. I
Right.
said, I
I
said after that we're in trouble.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think Lawrence was all damn near all pro, right?
Yeah,
He was that good. And
yeah,
Same as I felt about the offense. He was phenomenal. I acknowledge that. Is he going to be that same guy next year? I would bet that he's not, right? If I had to bet on it. I've never been sold on Wosu myself. And I think that I think he can be productive. I kept saying that I think Mafe was underrated. You kept saying this too, that having four edges that you can play and count on is huge, right? I think that's where every team wants to be. Because Hall is great in spurts, but he wasn't necessarily a consistent player down in and down out. Whereas with Mafe wasn't quite the same pass rusher in my opinion, but he set the edge really effectively. And in this defense, you have to be able to set the edge on this defense. You're right. What happens if Nwosu's hurt? What happens if Lawrence isn't quite as good? I think they have issues. Now, I will say from a pass rush standpoint, I think that we see Murphy kind of come into his own this year. He was really good last year. I think year three for him, as explosive as he is, it would not surprise me to see him get 10 sacks. It really wouldn't. He is that explosive. The other variable that I think is very important to mention is I think with both Eamon Worry and Witherspoon, you get a different dimension with your pass rush and with your blitzes, having those two on your team, right? And especially Eamon Worry, I think the threat of Eamon Worry, we saw it towards the end of the year. Offenses were adjusting and calling plays because of the presence of Nick Eamon Worry, and that's his presence in the box, his ability to blitz, his explosiveness can make up for some of the lack of pass rush off the edge. I think you will see Mike McDonald use those two even more as a threat. Maybe not as a productive pass rusher, but as at minimum as a threat in the pass rush. Um,
I like that.
I just, the subtraction of Reek Woolen is he was a knucklehead. He's an absolute knucklehead,
Yes.
but he was still incredibly talented. And so, it's going to be interesting. What does Neil look like, right? What does Bud Clark look like? Can they contribute immediately? If they need a year, then now we've got a thin secondary. So, yes, I agree that I think the defense has questions. I just believe that Mike McDonald is going to put a very good defense. At minimum, this is going to be an above average defense, right? I think it can be an elite defense again, but it's thinner than it was. I would have loved to have seen them spend some sort of draft pick on an edge that could come in and be productive right away. Uh, and even in the middle, right? You look at the depth behind Murphy, Reed, and Leonard Williams, and it's Riley Mills, Brandon Peely, and Mike Morris. So the defense is thinner. There is no debating that this defense is thinner, and that we have some worries there. But the top end talent on this defense across the board, right? We talked about how people don't see the Seahawks as having any elite defenders. The fact is, I think they had a whole bunch of them. They just weren't acknowledged as such. And when you look at that list, you look at Eamon Worry, you look at Witherspoon, you look at Lawrence. Ernest Jones may have been the best off-ball linebacker in the NFL last year. You look at Murphy, right? Leonard Williams. This is still an incredibly talented defense, but if they get hurt, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that's we are going to see issues over the course of the year with this defense where they're not quite as good as we want them to be.
Yeah, and I think that for defense, I think it's just age that gets me concerned because at this point you're hoping Dante Fowler can give you something that Mafe did. Now, thankfully, that's not a
Hmm.
high standard or a hard a hard bar to meet, but it's you don't love counting on older guys, right, to get you through an entire 17 game season. So
Yeah.
with that, let's get into it. I guess we can go week by week
Sure.
and give our opinions, and then we'll have our tally there at the end. All right. So week one, we are kicking off things at home on Wednesday Night Football against the New England Patriots. We are doing a Super Bowl rematch. This choice was controversial. A lot of people thought it was going to be Bears. Um, I thought it was going to be Bears. Honestly, I mean, I'm fine with the Patriots. It was going to be a win regardless in my mind. At least it better be. But um, what's your reaction to that? Who they chose to start off with week one, and then a Wednesday night game. You got any thoughts on that? Where you stand?
I like the idea that you take the Super Bowl and flip it on its head, right? That's always fun. Um, I have it as a loss. I Here's why. I think if you look at what New England did, they lost Anthony Jennings, who was a run stuffing edge, and they lost Stephon Diggs, who's over the hill. They're probably adding AJ Brown. They added Kevin Byard, who's a great safety. They re-signed they signed Elijah Vera Tucker, who's close to an All-Pro guard. But the big thing, and Romeo Dobbs, the big thing to me is Drake May is an elite quarterback, right? He was in the MVP, the real MVP discussion at the end of the year. And when you have a transcendent quarterback like that, that makes everyone around you better, that team is always going to be a threat. But that team is really good in the trenches. Their defensive tackles are incredible. And if they give Drake May, who, like I said, in my opinion, is a top five, potentially top three quarterback in this league, AJ Brown and Romeo Dobbs, and an all Pro Bowl level guard, if he can stay healthy, in Vera Tucker, the Patriots are really good. And this is led to me. This is as much about the Patriots as it is me being a little nervous about this Seahawks team going into 26. It's not, but this isn't a knock. This isn't saying that Seahawks are bad. I'm not saying that quite yet that the Seahawks are trash in 26. What I'm saying is I think the Patriots are going to be really good, really, really, really good. And I think Drake May is the truth. I hate saying it. I personally I don't love him. I didn't love him coming out. But I think, what did he finish? Third in the MVP voting, fifth in the MVP voting, something like
I think he
that,
was second. I think he
or
was second.
second. So okay, and he's 23 years old, I believe.
Mhm.
So that's just, to me, it's. I think the Patriots are just a better team, and and I know it's going to be nuts. I know it's going to be a blast. I know that everyone's going to be going crazy. But I think they have the superstar on offense that the Seahawks don't have at quarterback, and I think everything else is very, very solid on that team.
Yeah, I can't. I can't disagree more. Honestly, like I think the Patriots overachieved. Frankly, last year, I think they got to the Super Bowl because Bo Nix got hurt. That's that's the reality. Um, I think they played a ton of weak competition last year. I think that's going to catch up with them. I think it was clear how used to lower level competition they were in the Super Bowl. And that's not to say that it's going to be, like the Seahawks will control the game nearly as much. I do expect the Patriots to be better, but I don't think, to your point about Drake May, that there's been enough time for him. His very last game was against his defense, and I
Yeah,
just don't think he's going to face anything like that in training camp or preseason. He's not going to face a Mike McDonald like defense in any way in the preseason to get those reps. Now,
nope.
to your point, if this game was later in the year, I would be more nervous. I'd be more nervous because then, assuming that your guys are healthy on the front line coming out of training camp, I'd be more nervous about injuries to your defensive linemen that wrecked that offensive line at that point. I'd be more nervous about Drake May having those experiences, having those reps because they
You're
they had to play a hard schedule this year.
you're
They
great. Your great players get better over the offseason through their own work, right? Michael Jordan was known. Gary Payton did the same thing. They figure out what they didn't do well, and they obsess over it, and they spend every minute of the offseason getting better at whatever that particular thing is. And I guarantee you, Drake May was focused on that game and the things that he needed to do better. I look at their team, right? And Christian Barmore and Milton Williams up front, it's incredibly difficult to run against that team. Incredibly difficult. They've got a really, really good secondary. And I don't know that we score against them. And Drake May
well,
is good. Drake May is going to put up 24 points a game, I think, regardless
yeah.
of who they're playing against this year, especially if AJ Brown is on this team.
Maybe not this year. Maybe not this week. Maybe not week one. I think our offensive line did a fine job in the run game. I mean, K9 won MVP for goodness sakes. I mean, it's hard
Well,
to go from that
yes.
to that we're gonna have the most valuable player in the Super Bowl be a running back to then now they suddenly can't run the ball at all against the I
You
don't
can
think
you
that
can
happens.
if that player's gone. You can if that phenomenal player is not on the team anymore. The other thing is Barmore and Milton Williams were worn down. To catch big, tough, rugged defensive linemen in week one looks very different than catching them whatever it was, 20, 21, 22 games into the season. I think this team is, I think this, again, this isn't a knock on the Seahawks. I'm not saying that the Seahawks are trash. I'm saying that I think the Patriots are very, very, very good
You
and
don't play
ascending.
any. You don't play any of the controversy going on with their head coach is a major factor. I mean, Drake May can do all he wants. That coach still has to get the respect of the locker room and navigate what's going to be a ton of controversy surrounding that first game.
I think that can be overrated. I think that stuff can be overrated. I just do. I don't. I think once you're in the game, once you're ready to play, I don't think you're thinking about that at all. I really don't. And I would venture to say, this might be a hot take. I would venture to say that half of the coaches are doing the same trash, and the players know it. It just doesn't come out in the media. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look,
I don't think it's that big of a deal to the players. I really don't.
maybe not the players, but last we saw Mike Vrabel, he did not look like the confident
No, he was shook.
guy.
He was
You know what I
shook.
mean? Like
He
that's
was
what I mean.
shook.
I think that matters. But
Okay.
nevertheless, all right, I got it as a W, got it as a L. Week 2
Predictable.
at the at the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
this is a W. I'm not gonna be that much of
Okay.
a
All
jerk.
right. Because
This
I
is a
yeah,
W for sure.
you
The
was gonna have me
the
yelled.
the, the, Car- the Cardinals are clearly uh, trying to tank and are clearly looking to pick somebody in that QB rich 27 draft. I think any other take is off and wrong. They're so bad. When you look at their team, they are so bad. So they lose Kyler Murray. Um, they lost a couple players on defense, right? They go sign Tyler Algier, who's like a power number two back playing behind Bijan. They used a number three overall pick on a running back. I love Jeremiah Love, but I think picking a running back there is nuts. They didn't do anything else in free agency. They picked up a guard in Suomalo, Algier, like I said, Kendrick Bourne, just a bunch of scrubs. It's clear to me they're not trying to win nothing. Their draft I've got right here. They picked Love in the first round. They picked Chase Basantis, 34th overall in the second round, a guard out of A&M. And there are a lot of people that didn't think he was a second round guard. They picked Carson Beck in the third round at quarterback, who I don't know about you, I can't stand him. Couldn't stand him at Georgia. Didn't like him at Miami. Does not look like a winning quarterback to me. Um, and the team itself is just not. This is an unserious team. That's the way I would describe them.
I
They're
agree.
unserious
I
until
agree.
they're able to get a quarterback and have some. There's no vision on that team. Like you can't point at the Cardinals and say this is what I think they're trying to accomplish, right? You look at the Seahawks when McDonald came in. You said, okay, they're going to build from the defense and they're going to build through the running game, right? And we know they have a very strong rooted philosophy. This is a team with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, right? They somehow screwed up the Marvin Harrison Jr. pick, somehow, as talented as he is. They have Trey McBride, right? But some of their offense doesn't look great. They've got, a hodgepodge on defense that somehow's played okay. This is a blowout to me. This is the Seahawks recovering. They get through the Patriots loss. They go to Arizona. They lick their wounds, and I think they destroy the Cardinals in week 2.
Yeah. Yeah, you pretty much. I'm not even gonna. I don't have anything to add. There's nothing else to add. It's the Cardinals. I'm not gonna spend a ton of
I was
time
gonna say I already
analyzing their
wasted
team.
enough oxygen talking about this
Yeah,
26
that's
Cardinals team. This team is trash.
you covered it
Great
well. All
trash.
right, W's across the board. Okay, then we are again another road game at the Washington Commanders. Last we saw the Washington Commanders, that was a blowout. Now Jay Daniels would hopefully be healthy at this point. I'm not sure where he is in his recovery right now, but assuming Jaden Daniels is the quarterback, we'll work under that assumption. What do you got? It is.
This is an L.
I knew you were gonna say
Um,
it.
well, so let me go say why. I think they realized they weren't going anywhere as it was currently constructed, right? Jaden Daniels 2 years ago kind of carried them. There's a lot of momentum. Obviously, he got hurt last year. Dan Quinn is supposed to be a defensive coach. Their defense was really bad. They've got some talent on that defense, Frankie Louvu, but they went out and overhauled the number of guys they signed, right? So they signed Odafe Owe, who was originally a first round pick of the Ravens, 4 years, 100 million to rush the passer. Chigo Conquo, the tight end from the Titans, they signed. Leo Chenal, who's an underrated linebacker. Tim Settle as an interior defensive lineman. Amik Robertson to play the nickel. Caleb Von Chason, who was a good pass rusher last year. Charles Menahu. They signed both Jerome Ford from Cleveland and Rashad White from Tampa. They got a bunch of receivers. They re-signed Traylon Burks. They signed Demonte Brown, Van Jefferson. So they overhauled a lot of positions with a lot of guys who may not jump off the page as superstars, but these guys are solid, solid, solid players across the board. Like really solid players, players that I would welcome on the Seahawks. And then in the draft, they went out and they put in work in the draft as well. Sonny Styles at linebacker, who could be an All Pro year one. I hate saying that about an Ohio State linebacker, or Ohio State player in general, but Sonny Styles is an incredible off-ball linebacker,
Okay.
like an elite athlete, and exactly what Dan Quinn wanted. Antonio Williams, the wide receiver from Clemson, gives them a very steady. I think he's a really good number two eventually. So they have depth at wide receiver, which you need with Jaden Daniels. They improved on both lines, and they put a ton of resources towards the defense. And then going across country is not always easy either, right? I know that the Seahawks have had a lot of success on the road. I know that they've done really well on the East Coast. I still don't think it's easy. To me, a similar refrain for me as the Patriots game. I think that this Commanders team is very, very good. And I think the Commanders win this game and the Seahawks start 1-2.
Yep. So the premise for me, a lot of these games as we go through, you'll find for me, I won't deny other teams' improvement. I just felt like last year there were significant gaps for most repeat opponent. I mean, there was so many blowouts. Like, so maybe there are closer games this year. I could see that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I can see it being a little bit more of a hard fought battle, especially the Washington Commanders game, because that was
Sure.
embarrassing on their part. I expect them to show up and to put up a fight. But I still just think the gap is sizable enough because I look at this offense and I'm just going, I don't see anything that scares me against this defense. I mean, Jaden Daniels, but the Seahawks have done a really good job actually at containing quarterback scrambles. That's what they did the first matchup. If they've proven they know how to contain guys who can scramble fairly well. Like obviously they'll get one or two, right? But like they've not been killed by a scrambling quarterback all of last year, and really I would go back and say the second half of last year as well. Ever since they got Ernest Jones, they stopped
Right.
being killed by scrambling quarterbacks. And
Right.
I mean, Terry McLaurin, I have still out of respect to him. I still think Josh Jobe can cover him. I still think Devin Witherspoon can cover him. You know what I mean? There's just not enough. They improve defense significantly. So all of your points, I'll agree with them. I think they'll be better defensively, but I also, on principle, to me, it comes down to the Kyle Shanahan offensive system in general was built to attack a Dan Quinn built defense. Fundamentally, what the Seahawks do well on offense is built to attack the weaknesses of a Dan Quinn defense. And to me, I think that's always going to give them the edge in this matchup because we see it over and over again. This team knows how to attack those weaknesses, and where they are on talent or not can only mean so much if the system is designed to every time get this guy open at this spot. You know, now I do know we got a new offensive coordinator, Brian Flory, cool, but I trust if not Brian Flory, the staff behind him, Justin Alton, guys who have proven it, who did make a great, who contributed greatly to Clint Kubiak's success last year, and I trust they'll be able to make it work against this level of competition. Okay, we're back at home.
I like the
We
Commanders. Again, I like the Commanders offense better. What's that?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
Say
ahead.
that. Say it again.
No, go ahead. I was switching gears. If you had anything on the Commanders, go ahead.
Okay. I was saying I think I like their offense. I like their offense better. I think McLaurin is still very good. I think Williams could have been a second or a low first round pick. You look at their line. There's a lot of talent on their offensive line. I don't know. I think that this Commanders team is really good. And I also don't know the offense. Our offense comes from the Shanahan tree. I don't think it's a Shanahan offense per se, right? I don't. This is, and I think the one place where we do differ like very objectively speaking, is just that I don't expect the same play from this offense, and I don't expect the same Sam Darnold as we had last year. I'm not confident that, and I can't give you a definitive reason as to why I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be as good. It's probably not fair to say because he did get better, and he, you know, for all intents and purposes, I don't have an argument other than still don't trust him, even though he won us a Super Bowl. Um, so I don't know. I think the Commanders are good. I think these are going to be really, really good football games, and that's one of the common themes in this. In when I look at the schedules, there's going to be a lot of really fun Seahawks football this year. I think there's going to be a lot of really well played games, well coached teams, really interesting teams. Again, the Patriots game I think is going to be interesting and fun. This Commanders game I'm fascinated by for a lot of different reasons. I'd probably pick the Seahawks if it was in Seattle. Um, and I will certainly pick the Seahawks if Jaden Daniels isn't playing, right? I think those two things have to be there for them to, or for the Commanders to win. But I don't know. Interesting game, fun game, close game.
For sure. For sure. I agree with your point that a lot of these, I mean, because it's the first place schedule, right? So that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot more. I don't think we're going to see as many blowouts, right? I think that was a product
Mm-hmm.
of our schedule and the benefits from that. And the whole NFC West, frankly, showed that that was the case. So back to week 4 at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Uh, Hardball game. So it's always interesting. I mean, for sure those guys are going to be ready. They're healthier. I think the Chargers have made some significant improvements. I'm going to still pick the Hawks to win this one, but it would not surprise me if they lost this. I have a loss for one of either the Chargers game or the Cowboys game that we'll get to later. I think they'll lose one of those. I'm not sure which
Mm-hmm.
one, but you can give me an argument either way.
It's a loss for me. Um, I think I'm scared. You know what list of Mike McDonald, or excuse me, Mike
Daniel.
McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh together. I think both of them are incredible coaches. I think McDaniel got a raw deal in Miami. I don't think he was the issue. I think some of his tactics or some of his style bothered people. I think the fact that he didn't fit the typical stereotype of an NFL coach bothered people, right? His glasses, his pants, right? His kind of the a little bit nerdy, but a lot of swag at the same time. All those things, I think it bothered people and the establishment. But I think he's a brilliant, brilliant offensive mind. And part of what they were missing in Los Angeles was any kind of like there was nothing was dynamic about that offense. They picked Omari and Hampton in the first round, a talented running back. You have Justin Herbert, right? You have wide receivers that are big and decent, but not great. McConkey is, but they needed something else. Now you have two of the probably 10 best tackles in the league, and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. You got on talent a top probably 7 top 5 quarterback and a brilliant offensive mind in Mike McDaniel. So to me, I don't love their defense. I think their defense, you know, needed help. Um, but I think they're going to put up a ton of points. Uh, this could be a high scoring game. I just, like I said, I'm scared of Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh together. I could have gone the other way in this game. Kind of like you said, I could have given it a W. I'm not as confident in the Seahawks, and I think this Chargers team is going to really surprise people on offense this year.
Yeah. Now that we're in week 4, one thing I want to point out that I really like about this schedule in general is that it starts off, at least in my opinion, with a few actually, winnable games, right? Against opponents that, especially defenses in particular, that I think you can hit the ground running with from an offensive perspective. I think Brian Fleury is a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
My hope in giving this a win is that he begins to build on the first 3 games, right? First of all, he doesn't start from a super low floor, right? Because if he starts from a super low floor, then well, he might be out of a job because Mike McDonald
Mm-hmm.
doesn't play there. But but if he starts from a decent floor but continues to get better, I think I think it could be an interesting chess match for sure. Mike McDaniel against Brian Fleury, is he up to the task? No. If they lose this game, in my opinion, it's because Fleury wasn't up to the task for that. But I do
Mhm.
trust a Mike McDonald defense over Jim Harbaugh led defense, and so to me, that's what gives the edge. But it'll be a fun game for sure. And at home also, I'm going to give the edge because the Seahawks did get their home field advantage back last season. That's something that was a big
Mhm.
thing. It's been a problem. It seemed to get fixed. Really, I mean, there weren't too many games I can think of it actually at all last season where there was just a takeover, right, of opposing fan base.
Right.
So to me, that's a big deal. I think Lumen's going to be rocking. I think that gives us the win.
Mhm.
Okay, then we've got week 5 versus the 49ers. I've got them splitting. Um, since they're at home, I'm gonna give them this win. I'm gonna give them this win as well.
I'm
Since
with
they're at
you.
home, I'm giving them
I'm
this
with you on the
win.
split.
Like,
I'm with you on the split. I think they win at home and lose on the road. Um, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Seahawks get both games,
right.
uh, but I think the smart money would be that they split. Uh, I know Mike Evans is old, but Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge addition for them. They got Drake Greenlaw back, who was a part of the heart and soul of that defense a couple years ago. I think that's underrated to get him back from Denver. They didn't lose much. They tried to go out and get Bryce Huff to rush the defense or rush the passer last year, and he wasn't proved to not be much of an addition. I think this is the same Niners team we've seen. The one thing I will say is Trent Williams is a year older, right? George Kittle is a year older. Christian
Well,
McCaffrey is
will
has
he be
another.
back?
We
Will
don't
he be
know.
back?
Don't
I don't
know.
think he'll be back this. My guess is he's not back
And
this
if
early.
he's
I think
not,
it's
then you
another.
don't have you don't have a threat at tight end, right? Christian McCaffrey is getting to a point as a running back that you have to question whether he's going to be the same player anymore. And they didn't really add anything, to the defense to make them better. So I think that they added a receiver in the second round and Dejon Stribling, um, and they added some defensive pieces as well in the draft. But it's not. They're just. I think they're old. I think the Seahawks defense and the youth on that defense, the explosiveness on the defense will play a huge role in beating the Niners. Like I said, I think it's a win at home, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Hawks won in San Francisco as well. I don't have a ton of confidence in this team, and again, McCaffrey gets hurt. What happens? Mike Evans gets hurt. Now Ricky Pearsall is your number one. It's just Trent Williams gets hurt, and there's not a lot of talent, like not a ton of talent. We talked about Dominic Puny last year. He's a good guard, but there's not a ton of talent on that offensive line like it used to be. So again, win at home, loss on the road. You could convince me by the time they go to San Francisco that the Hawks that I would predict them to win that game as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I'm giving them the win before because I'm gonna assume Kittle's not in this game this early. To
Hmm.
me, that's the difference maker. It's all you need.
It's huge.
But then they fly out to Denver on Thursday night football, their first prime time game, week 6. I've got this as a scheduled L. Like it's almost a lock L. I just think coming off of a short week against a division rival, which is going to be a tough game. I mean, no matter what we think about the Niners and how old they are, especially because you'll probably get them on the fresher end at this point in week 5, relatively speaking, for whatever that means for the 49ers.
Right.
But at high altitude, I think, don't get me wrong, the defense is going to give Bo Nix fits. But I just think in the high altitude, in the travel, in the short week, probably have some folks resting that, maybe from the last game, because they got another big game coming up. It seems like man, you can't say it's a trap game because the Broncos are a very good team.
Hmm.
Probably should have been the Super Bowl opponent, frankly.
Hmm.
But I just think it's too much up against them.
Their defense is good.
Yeah.
That Broncos defense is really good for one. For two,
Yep.
you're right. I think the outside variables, the travel, Mile High is a huge deal if you've never been to Denver before. Um, Playing against a defense that good, right? And then they added Jalen Waddle, and
Yep.
that should not be. They gave up a lot of resources to get him. That it should not be overlooked. Troy Franklin was good last year.
Mhm.
Troy Franklin was, rookie out of Oregon, super skinny, played really well. Cortland Sutton is a good big receiver. To me, he's not a one, but you add
Yeah.
Waddle to that. Now you've given Bo Nix like some real, like true weapons. Evan Ingram is a great pass catching tight end. I think Denver's going to be good. I think Coach Payton is a good coach, right? He's probably a Hall of Fame coach ultimately.
I think
Um,
so.
so I don't think that the Seahawks get overmatched in this game necessarily, but I do think that this is a loss.
Yeah, seems like a schedule ill to me. I think
Hmm.
circumstances against him. All right, then back home. Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Get a little bit more of a rest the Thursday to Sunday, a few extra
Hmm.
days. I'm going to put this as another win. I think they're going to bounce back. Bounce back. They have a little extra rest. I think some guys, maybe if they sat out some guys, they come back for this. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be back. We don't know how much like himself he's going to look like, but that secondary is like Swiss cheese to me. And so I'm gonna assume that the combination of I could see this being a Shaheed game pretty easily, honestly. Like I'm pretty sure they'll put a lot of resources to stopping JSN. They might succeed. I don't think that's gonna be enough to stop a Torrey Horton or Rashid Shaheed on the back end as well.
I have this as a win as well. They did spend their, I think, the number 7 pick that they traded up for, 6 pick on Mansour Delane, the best corner in the draft out of LSU. They obviously know that that's an issue. I don't like betting against Mahomes, but they didn't do, outside of signing K9, they didn't do a lot as far as making this team better. They did sign 3 different pieces for the secondary, but I don't think it makes the secondary all that much better. Um, Outside of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, I guess Nick Bolton, getting rid of McDuffie, I know why they did it, right? The Rams paid a high price to get him, but the defense, they got to try to outscore everyone. And unless you got, unless Mahomes is like, you're keeping him clean and he's playing like old Mahomes, I don't know. I don't see it on the Chiefs side. I don't like, again, betting against Andy Reid and the Chiefs, but to me this is a win. At home this is a win.
Yeah, Travis Kelsey needs to be on tour somewhere with Taylor Swift. I don't think he needs to be playing football another year personally. I think he's
I
been
don't think
washed
he's
for like
bad. He's just
he's
not
been washed for
he's not a pro bowler anymore, but I don't think I ain't going to go that far. I don't think he's bad.
I think he's washed. I think he's washed. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's probably about a year past due. And legitimate
Expiration date.
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Legitimate question
Uh,
that I have going into this game. Will K9 be healthy for the revenge game? Because we know he made it through a long season because he wasn't the primary bell cow. They have paid this man to be the bell cow. Now, week 7 isn't super late in the season, admittedly, but when K9 got injured, he normally tended to get injured mid-year and he'd come back for the end of the year. That was kind of the pattern with him, right? Like he wouldn't get hurt for the
yep.
whole year, but like he missed games in the middle of it seemed like every season outside of this past season. And that's a real question for me.
I think Pacheco is a good number 2, right? Pacheco functioned as their one for a number of years, and I don't think it was to their detriment necessarily. I think he was good, not great. So I don't know. I take Pacheco over Charbonnet myself. Um, so I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay. I'm not worried about. I don't think K9's going to make all the difference in the world to this team. I wouldn't have signed him for what they did. But I don't know whether if he's healthy. Obviously, they're better, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference myself.
Yeah.
I think Seahawks win this game.
All right. Another home game. I mean, of their tough slate, they got a lot of these games at home. And I think that's another thing that's favorable about the schedule. So they're at home again versus Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. One extra day of rest for them as well. Um, I've got it as a win, but Bells are tough. I'm gonna love the chess match between Mike McDonald and Ben Johnson.
Hmm.
Let me give the edge to Mike McDonald because he's just earned that trust to me at this point in those matchups. And I think they did a good job against the Bears. But the Bears are, in some ways, they've gotten better since they last played. In other ways, they've gotten worse. Obviously, Kobe Bryant is going to be a factor. It wouldn't surprise me if he got at least one pick. Like if he gets a pick, but we still win, I can definitely see that outcome coming. And that's kind of how I'm slating it. I think he's probably going to get Sam at least once, though.
To win for me, I don't I don't love the Bears defense. I know they got Kobe Bryant. They spent a one on Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon that played at Purdue before. Um, Jalen Johnson is a true number one corner. They've got some good players on defense, but the line isn't great. The linebackers aren't great. The offensive line isn't great, right? They're putting together. They got a second year left tackle in Ozzie Trapillo. Joe Tooney's been playing forever. Garrett Bradbury is a stopgap because Drew Dahlman retired unexpectedly. Like they lost DJ Moore. I don't know. They've got some explosion. Luther Burden III is a explosive wide receiver. To me, this comes down to the Bears can only win if Caleb Williams continues to elevate his game. Right?
Yeah.
He's got that, like what I talked about with Drake May, he's got that in him. But if he doesn't display that, they're not winning. Caleb Williams has to be transcended. He has to play at the level of a number one overall pick. He is the one who's going to be expected to carry this team. The Bears have a shot if Caleb Williams is that guy in 26 in this game. The Bears have a shot. I don't think
Yeah.
he's that guy quite yet. I don't know that he ever will be. This is a W for the Seahawks in Seattle.
Nice. All right. Week 9. Guessing. Please tell me you got a W.
We ain't got to go. We don't even got to talk about it. It's
All right.
Arizona
Great.
again at home.
Great.
No, it's a W.
All right. Cool. All right. Then it goes to the Raiders. Still W to me. Don't know if it'll be Mendoza or Kirk Cousins. I could care less. It really doesn't matter. Um, Seahawks
I
in 5.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. I agree that Seahawks win. I do think that they got better as a team.
no, for sure. Yeah, they did.
Um,
They definitely had a great
Tyler
offseason.
Linderbaum, 3 years, 81 million for a center, right?
Yep.
And Baltimore did not want to give him up. I don't love Jalen Naylor at wide receiver or Eric Stokes at corner, but they're veteran additions. They added Quiddy Pay, N'Kobe Dean, Quay Walker. As you said, they added Kirk Cousins. They traded for Teron Johnson from the Bills. Like they did some things to add some talent to this team. This a hodgepodge patchwork team with a new coach that we don't really know too much about is not going to beat the Seahawks in 26. Um,
Nah, nope.
yeah,
And I love Clint as a offensive coordinator. I've always had questions about what it would look
yeah,
like for him to be a head coach.
yep,
Frankly,
yep.
I think he should have waited a year, and maybe gone to a better situation. And I also just don't know that he has the demeanor and the. I do think there is something to, like you said about the Mike McDonald thing. I think the ability to lead a bunch of alphas. I think that matters to some extent.
Hmm.
I don't know if Clint's that guy, but nevertheless, bye week. I think it's a great bye week. Love a week 11 bye week. I think it's a perfect time.
Yeah.
Um, right around Thanksgiving, coming back. 49ers, like you said, you got the splitting. So you had it as a win at first, right? Are you gonna put them at
No, I
six?
had a I had a yes win at home, loss on the road, but I want to reevaluate when we get there because I could see the Seahawks winning this game if Trent Williams is hurt, if Mike Evans is hurt, if Fred Warner is hurt, any of those guys, Christian McCaffrey, any of those guys hurt now for this game, I think it's Seahawks win.
Yeah, I know I said split. I think I lied. I
You'll
think
put a
I
W.
lied. I think I'm gonna put a W. And it's mostly just because off of a bye week, Mike McDonald is undefeated.
Okay.
He's 3-0 out of a
Okay.
bye week. I'll take that. And
Okay.
but maybe they win. Maybe they lose the first one. That's fine.
Right.
All right,
Right. Okay.
Dallas Monday
Yep.
Night Football.
Yep.
I'm gonna put this as an L because I think they, especially if they're winning that 49ers game, I think the Cowboys got better. And it's either Dallas or Chargers. I think they lose one of them.
I
Coin
think
toss for me on which one would win.
Cowboys got a lot better to me. Caleb
They did.
Downs. Caleb Downs it could be an All Pro safety year one. He's that smart. Malachi Lawrence, they picked off the edge, first round, 23rd overall. People didn't expect him to go that high, but he's talented. I think if Pickens is happy or if Pickens is playing up to Pickens level, that Pickens
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb tandem is brutal, right? They're tough. I have it as an L. I don't. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be an interesting game. But I think the Cowboys are going to be very good this year, personally.
Yeah. Same. Same. All right. New York Giants. They are at home against the New
Hmm.
York Giants on this particular game. I like the direction the Giants are going in. Obviously, Love John Harbaugh. That hire was a great hire. Not sure if even this late in the year they'll be really pushing to win a lot of games. I still think it's probably to their best advantage to take a little bit, get some more resources, build up in the draft one more year, and then try to compete next year. That's my
Yep.
thought. Hopefully, at this point in the year, that's their approach.
I'm with you. I don't. I'm not there yet with them. I think they're building for a year or two out, and
Mhm.
not next year. I think I like Jackson Dart, but I also think Jackson Dart is careless with his body. And so, is he going to be healthy enough to play? Is he going to be playing, but like carrying his right arm around? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I loved what they did in the offseason. I think they made a lot of really, really great signings. Their draft was was pretty darn good. Arvell Reese and Francis Maui Noah is and Colton Hood as well. That's a really nice top three in your draft.
Yep.
I think they're on the right path. We also don't know if Malik Neighbors is healthy. And Malik Neighbors was like a top five, top three wide receiver in the NFL before he got hurt. And so I think he had a second surgery on his knee. And so if
Yep.
he's not healthy, then this team is not, there's no explosion on this team. So it'll be interesting to see. They did sign Isaiah Likely. Sometimes it takes time for skill position players to come in and integrate. I think they're on the right track. I like what they're doing. I love the addition of Harbaugh, like you said, but this is a win for the Seahawks, in my opinion.
Yep. All right. So then we take on the Eagles. That's a road game, Saturday game. Um, I'm gonna tentatively put a W because I don't really
Ooh,
believe in the Eagles. I don't really believe in the
ooh.
Eagles. I put a
Okay.
W. I don't believe in the Eagles. That's more representation of my lack of belief in the Eagles infrastructure. They're so hot and cold that I don't know if Saquon a year older. I don't know if even if they do get that, the offense should probably be better than it was last year. I don't know. Jalen Hurts has trouble sometimes in certain schemes. I think Mike McDonald's gonna be able to exploit that. Obviously, health is going to play a key factor here for both teams at this point in the season. But the Seahawks are good on the road, and sometimes they're better on the road. It's going to be a tough environment, no question, hostile environment going into Philly. Standalone game Saturday, but I think they can do it. I think they'll be a little bit on a hot streak. I can almost see it if they lose that Dallas game, it almost being like a kind of Tampa Bay Bucks effect, where like they're so pissed off about losing that game that they don't lose again. I can see that happening.
So I agree. I think the coaching staff of the Eagles can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they have the best GM in football in Howie
Yeah.
Roseman, or the best, I guess,
Well, some say no.
player personnel like decision makers in the NFL. You look at their team, top to bottom, they're talented everywhere,
For
right? I
sure.
think they may have the most talented team and the deepest team in the NFL. They've got talent everywhere at every level. You look at their defensive line, obviously Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, linebacker Jihad Campbell, Zach Bond, Nolan Smith, Jonathan Grenard now on the edge. In the
Yeah,
defensive backfield, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Andrew Makuba. They add Reek Woolen, right? The defense has so much talent. Now the offensive line, when they get injuries, struggles a little bit, and I think that's something you can pick at. They add Makai Lemon, who some people thought was the most skilled wide receiver in this draft. Maybe not the most talented, but skilled. People comped him to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You add him to Devontae Smith. You still have Saquon. You still have Hurts. I think sometimes people look at Hurts and they see him as a less conventional quarterback and not as demonstrative as you may want him to be. And so I think people underrate how effective he actually is. I don't think the Seahawks get blown out in this game, but I think the Eagles are better. I just think the Eagles are better.
yeah. I think it comes down to the quarterback for us.
That's
I
why they
just
lose. That's why we lose, right?
Jalen Hurts reminds me of Russ in the fact that he's just got default flaws that I think Mike can expose. But I agree with all your other points. They're definitely a loaded roster. I'm just I believe in my Hawks, man. I really do. All
Okay.
right, fun stuff. Christmas Day, first game against the LA Rams. Do you?
hmm
Some people are in their feelings about this. About playing them so close back to back and playing them on Christmas. I think
Why,
it's great, honestly,
why does it
because I know
matter? Why does it matter?
people are like, I think people want an opportunity to play a division game that's just important early in the year, but I actually think it's better. And frankly, I think it's to the Seahawks' advantage that they play the Rams late because they could be. I know we said this last year, but seriously, they could be injured. They were injured this time last year, just not Stafford, but like Devontae Adams. I just think with a team, they're not an old team, but they are old. Important. They don't have depth. They're a top-heavy, talented team, and so if somebody does get hurt at some point, it hurts them a lot more than I think even with the Seahawks. Even though we do have some concerns there on depth on our end. Um, it's gonna be close, but the Seahawks are at home. Give me the Hawks.
I have it as a W. Um, I don't. I think these games, no matter where they're played, are a toss up. It's impossible for me to predict these games between the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah,
I think if everyone's healthy on the Rams, specifically on offense, the Seahawks will have a tough time. I just if Stafford is the same as he was last year, and Nakua is not, in the loony bin, I think that the Seahawks will have a tough fight. Again, I have it as a W. It's at home. I think that plus the potential for one of the Rams' older players, like important older players, to be hurt coming into this game is too high. If Stafford is hurt, if one of Nakua or Adams are hurt, like they don't have somebody to come in and replace them. So now you can focus the majority of your coverage on one of those guys. What makes them so special is you've got two incredibly talented wide receivers, and you can't focus on one of them because the other one will eat you alive. So yeah, they're kind of hanging by a string for me. It's hard to count out McVay and Stafford, but this is a win for me at home, and I think I will hold on to that unless barring catastrophic Seahawks injury.
right. And we don't have time to get into this, but the Rams have a brutal schedule. I honestly think my take on the Rams this year,
More,
looking at their season, they they could be in third place by the time we get to this game. That's
yep,
I could see because the 49ers have a better path to winning more games. Wouldn't surprise me if the battle between the one seed was with the 49ers and the
right,
Seahawks instead
right.
of the Rams. But we'll see. Panthers away. I know you like Bryce Young. I'll give you the floor. It's a W for me. I'll give you a floor.
All
Why
right.
why are we losing this game?
Yes, I like Bryce Young. I like Ted McMillan. I think the Panthers try to build from the line out. I think that's very clear in terms of how they spent their resources. They spent their one on a offensive tackle from Georgia. They spent their two on a defensive tackle from Texas Tech. They also spent 4 years, $120 million on Jalen Phillips, who has been hurt at times, played for the Dolphins, was traded in a contract year to the Eagles, but he is incredibly explosive off the edge. They 3 years, $45 million for Devin Lloyd, the first round linebacker from Jacksonville. I think this defense is going to be better. They've got some big, good athletes on this defense. Bryce Young and Bryce Young and Ted McMillan, I think is a will be a top duo in this league moving forward. I think they're both that good. Um, I know people hate on Bryce Young. I know he started off really slow. I think they're better. I also think again traveling to the East Coast matters, and I think it matters to this late in the season. You're tired, right? And to me that travel means more. So I'm not like incredibly comfortable in picking the Panthers in this game, but it's similar to that Patriots pick. It's similar to that Commanders pick. Similar to the Broncos pick. I just think they're coming against a lot of teams who are going to be very close to their level, and some of the other stuff is going to matter more. And in this game, second to last game of the season, 16th game, you're going across the country to the south to play a team that is big and strong. And to me, the Panthers win. It's not gonna. It'll be close. I don't. It's not a blowout by any means, but I'll pick the Panthers in this one.
Yeah, I can't do it. All right, week 18. Um, I think they do. I think they do lose this one. There's no way they're sweeping the Rams. There's just no way. Now my hope will be that it falls like this. If I had my way, I'd rather win on Christmas And then, I mean, hopefully they're not playing for anything. I know the NFL has placed this game last because they think that everything's going to come down to that game.
Right.
I'm not so convinced. Looking at how tough of a slate they have, we'll see. We'll see if Stafford stays healthy for another 17 games again
Right.
at his age. But yeah, it'll be a loss.
It's a loss for me as well. You can convince me differently if Stafford, Devontae, or Nakua are hurt. I could go the other way. I just it provided that they're healthy and there's something to play for. I think the Rams win this game,
Yeah,
which
yeah, I think so.
leaves us at what record?
I've got 14-3 again. I've got my three losses as I changed it. I came in 13-4, but you could talk me into a week 5 loss against San Fran actually, but I think after the bye week they win that for sure. So they lose either to the Chargers or Dallas. They lose to the Rams. They split with the Rams, and they lose to the Broncos. Those are my three guaranteed wins.
We're doing the same thing as last year.
No, last year I think I went
No, no, I'm
12
saying
and
we.
5.
I'm saying you and I are doing the same thing though.
Oh, yeah, we
Like,
are for sure. I went 12-5 last
'cause
year. They exceeded my expectations.
I got
This time I'm leaning in 14-3.
I got 8 and 9 when
Wait, you
when
didn't have that many losses, did you?
yes, I had Patriots at Commanders, Chargers at Denver, at San Francisco, Dallas at Philly, at Carolina, at Rams. That's 9. I here's the thing. Here's the thing.
You know what?
Here,
It's good mojo. At this
here,
point, just lean into it. We'll probably win another Super Bowl.
I'm
We'll go
not.
back
This
to
isn't.
back.
Look,
I'm not
I'm
even
trying
mad.
to be. I'm looking at it as objectively as I can. I'm taking this year as this year. I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm not trying to nothing. Right. This is literally when I looked at the schedule and I went game by game. This is what I saw. I could see them winning. Look, I could. This is. I could go the other way in that I could see them winning against the Chargers at home. Right. If the Chargers haven't picked up that offensive scheme yet, I could see them winning that game. I could see them winning at Denver because I don't love Bo Nix. And I think that the secondary is really good. They've got a lot of quick reads, a lot of quick passes, that sort of thing. That's the kind of thing that Witherspoon could jump one and go and take it to the house, that sort of thing. I could see even Worry blowing up a some kind of pass behind the line of scrimmage, them getting a defensive touchdown and winning that game. I could see them winning in San Francisco very easily. I talked about that earlier. Dallas, I think, is going to be a shootout, but any shootout could go either way. I don't think they're winning in Philly. Right? I don't think they're winning in at Washington. I don't think they're winning against the Patriots week 1. I could see them winning in Carolina for sure. I'm not convinced at that. And I could see them winning in Los Angeles week 17 if there's an injury on the Rams side, right? But I was trying to be as objective as I could be in looking at the year by year and trying to take into account some of the things that I was incorrect about last year. Um, but I think that the schedule is a lot more difficult. I think it's more difficult than you do. I have more confidence in some of these teams. I think, um, but I think this is a 500 team this year, and it's not to say that the Seahawks are bad. It's to say that I think they overachieved in a lot of areas last year to their true talent, and I think a lot of the teams on their schedule got better this year.
Yeah, I think you. So for me, you put more stock in other teams getting better. I feel like the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL. I really do. And so because I feel like they're the standard and they proved it, I just think that yeah, all these teams got better. So yeah, maybe they are 3 wins better than they were last year, right? I still don't think that. I think it makes every game more interesting. Like I said, I don't think we'll have nearly as many blowouts, but
You
I
love you
still
some
think
Sam
the
Darnold. You love you some Sam Darnold, boy.
it's not even about Sam Darnold, man. It's this roster, and it's about Mike McDonald because my faith in his ability
Okay,
to fix any adjustments
sure.
that go wrong in this season. Like if they struggle with the run, I have no question that Brian Fleury will be sat quietly, and Justin Allen will be making play calls. Like it's stuff like that to me
Okay.
that like I don't think Mike is gonna let them. lose like that. He's not gonna let them go on a losing streak. To me, I have the highest ability, highest respect of our coach, his ability to adjust, and his staff around him. And I have so much respect for what the moves they made was in that coaching staff, kind of like last year, right? I leaned into the coaching staff, into the brain trust that those guys have. Now, obviously, the floor is lower than it was with a Clint Kubiak because we have an unproven play caller, but between that and the defense, and I really do like. I actually think the offense gets better in my mind, not because of Sam Darnold, but because I think they have a deeper wide receiver room than they did this time last year. And I think that while running back got worse, I think the O line actually got better. They're super young. I think they were like the third youngest offensive line. They were super young, and
They're
they're
also
they're
super
probably all
healthy.
coming back.
They're also
They
super
were,
healthy.
but I like our depth. I gotta be honest. I like our depth. I like a Bryce Cable dude. Brian Cable dude. Is Brian Cable dude? I like a Mason Richmond coming in at a pinch. I like that you've got what's his name? Bo Stevens coming
Hmm.
in in a,
I
you know what I'm
like
saying?
him. I like Bo Stevens. I think Bo Stevens is a real addition. Honestly,
Right.
I,
So I think your depth still is impressive and deep. So I just think very highly of this team.
I,
But I like it this way because
but
if
what do
you
you do? What do
scared,
you do when Abe Lucas gets hurt?
what do? You got Josh
Mhm.
Jones. He did great.
So
There was time.
week seven, he's gonna be the week seven. We're gonna have Josh Jones for the rest of the year.
Not for the rest of the year. Come on now. We're beyond this. Well,
Are
he
we?
did very
I mean,
good when Charles Cross and we had to play the 49ers and the Rams with the division and the number one seed on the line. Josh Jones
I,
stepped up. He
I like
made it work.
I like him. I like him. My
Even
point was
Amari
about Abe
Jones.
Lucas. What can we make a Abe Lucas bet before we go?
Sure, I'll do our 8 games again.
We gonna do 8 games?
I'll do 8 games again.
All right.
I
So
mean,
Abe Lucas
he
starts.
played all year last year, but
A-
I'm gonna, yeah,
I know he
I'm
did.
not gonna
So
get too liberal because I
so
do think
Abe
he'll get hurt.
Lucas starts fewer than 8 games. I win. Abe Lucas starts more than 8 games. You win. If he starts eight
Yeah,
games, then we're even.
yep,
All
yep.
right.
I'll take my chance on that. But I tell you what, I like Amari Kite. And
Yeah.
I was scared to death of that kid when he stepped in. I got to be honest. He was undrafted, right?
Yeah.
We got valuable experience. He'll have another offseason. I like our offensive line all around. It's crazy. But part of why I am not too worried about the Sam Darnold thing, and maybe I should be, but not too worried about it because I think the O line will get better. I think that will allow JSN to get open more. I think that will allow Rashid Shaheed time to get down the field. I think your Torrey Horton will still be, he'll probably be more the decoy at this point. Cooper Cup gives you third downs on occasion, right? I just think,
I was gonna
and
say
I and
Cooper
I
Cup's still gonna be
believe
covered.
and I believe the biggest difference between the first half of the season and the second half of the season between K9's performance was the offensive line. People can credit K9 all day long. He was running into he was just hitting asses. He was just it wasn't good. The O line blocking wasn't good, right?
Yep.
And his talent, as talented as he was, it meant nothing. So I think Jadarian Price can step in. Maybe they're not as dominant because they're playing better teams, but I think continuity matters. And
Yes. On the line, absolutely does.
yeah,
On the line,
so
it absolutely.
I'm
And I
gonna
think you're
take
right.
that.
Your point about K9, I agree with. I think K9 only a handful of backs are going to be able to run the ball without good blocking in front of them. And K9, as we know, is not that guy. But you
Right.
give him a crease, you give him an opportunity, and he will make the most of it. And I think, to his credit and to your point, the offensive line blocked really well in the second half. I
Mhm.
just, like I said, for me offensively, you got a big, long checklist of if these things happen, they will be good. And that checklist is too long for me, is to expect them to do the things that they did last year. But we will see. That's the
We'll
magic of
see.
this pod. The magic of this podcast is we come at it from very different perspectives.
I need you to be a hater at this point because
Makes
I'm
you look
riding the
good.
Super Bowl championship
Makes
off the
you,
back of your prediction.
yes, makes you look good. That's right.
Yeah. All right, Tino, let's get out of here. I know you gotta get out of here. Tell the
Yeah,
folks
yeah.
where they can find you.
Tino Junior 20 on Blue Sky. You can find me there. A little less active right now, but getting ready for watching a lot of Mariners baseball and getting ready for the Seahawks season.
All right, follow the show at Seahawks Pod on X. That's pretty much where I am active right now. Blue Sky account isn't as active as he said, but got a conversation going on, debating with folks, engaging with folks, and defending ourselves against the Raiders. Anyway, that's it. That's all the time we got for today. That's it. I'm out. And as always,
Go
go
Hawks.
Hawks.